My name is Myra McChriston, and my daughter, Mia Abdullah, has CVID. She was diagnosed at 11, which actually it was April of 2014, and she was just about to turn 12. I breastfed Mia. Mia was born on June 27th of 2002. And I was just about, I breastfed her for about 8 months. After I stopped breastfeeding her, Mia constantly had a runny nose. So much so that at the age of 1.5, she had her adenoids removed, and shortly after that, we had tubes placed in her ears to divert the fluid. I was always told that Mia had asthma. Actually, the first 5 years of her life, we were told she was allergic to wheat. And as a result, we had to, have all gluten-free products. But what was I going to say? So we spent a king's ransom at Whole Foods buying gluten-free products, and over the years, we used all kind of nebulizer with Pulmicort, and as she got older, we used the Advair inhaler, and all of these things never seemed to make her well. The only time she was ever well was when she was on an antibiotic, and over the years, she's been on more antibiotics than the law allows. One winter season, she was on an antibiotic from October until April. Always had about, from the age of 4, she had 4 bouts of pneumonia. And one time she even had pneumonia in both of her lungs. Just chronically, always with a runny nose, constant sinus infections. Not a lot of ear infections, but a lot of sinus. Her whole thing was always very upper, always a runny nose. We'd have these nights where she would cough constantly, and you didn't know if the cough was going to be something like a last breath, but always gagging to the point of making herself sick. Lots and lots and lots of mucus production. I would have to tell other parents when she was little, don't mind her runny nose. She doesn't have a cold. Mia's always like this. Worried if she would go for overnights, because I would be worried if she would get sick in the middle of the night, if something would upset her. Her brother plays football, and one time we went to a bonfire for him, and that night we came home, she was sick all night long. Then we realized she couldn't be around any kind of fires and things like that. When I talked to the doctor about it, they said some kids just had environmental allergies. So between them telling us asthma is the diagnosis and allergies, but unspecified, because I think also, trying to say, I guess it's ragweed and things like that. But during the summer of 2012, Mia had a really, really, really bad sinus infection. It came in May, June, and July. And both of those summers, she was on Ceftin, which is a really, really strong antibiotic. And I think I paid like a $50 copay every time that month for her to get on this thing. And they threatened us then with a hospitalization. But over the years, I will say, when Mia would get a fever, she couldn't shake it on her own. Even just like a random viral thing that she would get, she would always wind up needing an antibiotic to pull her through. And it was to the point where, I would tell the pediatrician, because we'd take her in, Mia wasn't feeling well, and she would say, well, it's viral. And I would say, well, when I call you back in 2 days and she's not any better, she's probably going to need an antibiotic, because that's just the way she was. And it was terrible, but I lived for the times when she was on an antibiotic. So long story short, the summer of 2012, when she had the really bad sinus infection that kept persisting for almost every month, We put her on the Sefton, and we continued to monitor her. During that summer, we also were finalizing a divorce. We were a family of 4. Myself, my husband, my son, and my daughter. And that summer was the summer of the kids. We now have joint custody, and the kids go back and forth. And so it was a very challenging time, but with the finalization of the divorce, we changed health insurance. And when we changed health insurance, we went to a new primary care, and when I was explaining to him the different meds that my daughter was on, the Pulmicort, the nasal spray, the Advair, and then also the request for antibiotic because she was getting ready to go for summer camp, sleepover with the Girl Scouts, and the only times I felt comfortable for her to be spending the night out for an extended period of time is if she was on an antibiotic. So I was asking the doctor, can he prescribe one? This is what we would normally do. And he said, well, I'm going to refer you to an ENT, and I'm going to refer you to an allergist, because we had the new insurance, and he wasn't comfortable also with some of the medicines she was on and continuing on without really knowing what was wrong with her. When we went to see the allergist, he started working her up, and in his workup, I guess he had exposure to children who had different types of immune deficiencies, and he said this may be what's going on with her. And that was the first time I had ever even heard, that thought process. And we went to see her first appointment was with him in May of 2013. And we went to see him, and he kept working her up. And after my ex-husband took my daughter for one appointment, me and the doctor would always talk after each appointment. And he said to me, all of her congestion sounds like it's coming from the upper region, the above the nose area. He said, but I want to just check and make sure. So I want to order a chest x-ray. And in August of 2013, I took her for a chest x-ray. The doctor called me when he received the results, and he said, I want to tell you something. She has a lot of infiltrate on her right lung. And I was like, what is infiltrating? He said, it's not good. It's when the lungs, are filled up with a lot, and I need to refer you to a pulmonologist. Well, he had a connection with Johns Hopkins. And he said, I want you to see this pulmonologist. But when we called, the first available appointment was in October. So the allergist called, Dr. Banks called, and he was able to get us a sooner appointment. And as it turns out, we were going to Hopkins to see the ENT to have her evaluated for sinus surgery, which in and of itself is it's not a benign surgery in the sense that, it's not something you want to make a decision upon lightly. So long story short, we went to see the ENT that day, and he said he didn't want to do anything until we figured out what was going on with her lung, and that we should see the pulmonologist. That same afternoon, we saw the pulmonologist. And when we went to see the pulmonologist, after we told him some of my daughter's history, he decided that he would do a CAT scan that same day. We did the CAT scan that same day at Hopkins, and that afternoon, the pulmonologist called me and told me that my daughter had a collapsed lung and that she needed to be admitted for a bronchoscopy, and that she had bronchiectasis. And this is from fluid dripping into the lungs. And so that was a Tuesday. I believe it was the 28th. On the 29th of August, the next day, my daughter was admitted to Johns Hopkins for the bronchoscopy, which they would do that Friday. But she needed to have intravenous antibiotics administered before then. At this time, they were treating the bronchiectasis and doing the bronchoscopy, but while they were doing this, they were going to go in and biopsy her cilia. They were also going to test her for cystic fibrosis. And if she didn't have a cilia disorder, didn't have cystic fibrosis, which is primarily found in Caucasian children, not in African American children, but they still were going to test her for it. If both of those things turned out to be no, then the third thing would possibly be that she was immunodeficient. And then we would have to see another doctor for that. So at this point, we were just trying to treat the bronchiectasis. And so she went in and had the bronchoscopy. Very challenging time because she was in the hospital for 9 days, all kinds of therapies, all kinds of antibiotics. And she wasn't on any kind of isolation while she was there. And so upon discharge, after 9 days of being in the hospital, after we went for her post-op appointment, we found out that she developed pseudomonas. So we spent the winter, November and December months trying to rid her of the pseudomonas. Thank goodness we were able to do that. As the new year came in, 2014, I was able to secure all of her previous records, and we were referred to Dr. Letterman, who's a pediatric immunologist at Johns Hopkins, and he works with Dr. Younger. They diagnosed Mia as having CVID. It's been one of the best things that could happen to us because she's so much better now, and I'm grateful to know. I was a little bit disappointed that the primary care didn't pick it up, but from my understanding, these diagnoses are so rare that, you know, they just wouldn't think that this would be what was wrong. So I wanted to share my daughter's story. And so I guess now at this point it is July of 2015. My daughter had her 1 year anniversary on subcutaneous Hizentra gamma globulin injections that we do once a week. It has been a process. It's challenging to tell an 11-year-old, 12-year-old that you're going to start therapy and you'll have to do it for the rest of your life. But she's getting stronger the more she knows. It's coming along really nicely, and I'm proud of the progress. I'm grateful to the doctors for diagnosing her, and I'm grateful to the IDF community for the support. And I'm just really grateful that my daughter's doing well and that there is, you know, relief for children that have these immunodeficiencies. And she does well. We don't limit her activities in any way other than the normal precautions, you know, that children should take: hand washing, not being in the face of somebody who's sick. I mean, you know, things of that nature at school. But now we don't have those horrible nights of her coughing up, you know, all kinds of phlegm and things like that. And I'm very happy with the care team. She still sees the pulmonologist at Hopkins, and then she's followed by the pediatric immunology team at Hopkins also. And between the two of them, we have her very stable, doing well, basically living a normal life. And I'm just so grateful. And so I just wanted to share our story. It's been a long road. When I finally read up on CVID, I felt like my daughter was a classic case, and how could anyone miss this? But I guess when it's so rare that now when you read it, hindsight is 20/20. But the most important thing is that she's well.